Welcome to Eat Your Backyard. This is my YouTube channel where I share with you my experience of creating food forest in a small backyard setting here in Central Florida, Zone 10A. If you're not subscribed already, I hope you will subscribe and join the tribe. I was actually on a bit of a hiatus for the last month or so, just released only a few videos. Actually got kind of sick, but feeling great now. I'm back in the game 100%. So I thought this would be a good time to give everybody an update on what's going on in the backyard. There's a lot to talk about, and I'm hoping some of the crew will show up on the live stream today. You know, I do these things kind of impromptu. I had been doing them every Saturday and Sunday for a while, and of course haven't done that for the last month or so, but now I should be back on a much more regular schedule, so stay tuned. You know, if you subscribe and turn on the notifications bell, then you'll be notified as the streams occur or the premieres come out. I usually get on the chat when I do live premiere videos, that way I can interact with anybody who's watching them first time they're released. And I'm looking now this time of year back in review over the last year. What was 2021? You know, for me, what were the good things? What made my world better? And many of the steps I took this year are now in full fruition. It was an incredible adventure to go through. You're looking at the Zen Bunny Run. It is an absolute phenomenon. Everybody who interacts with it is amazed. It's myself included every single time I go in there. I've got two very healthy lion head bunnies that are, let's say, well cared for, to say the least. They have a steady diet of fresh veg, lots of exercise. They even get time digging holes and playing with the chickens, believe it or not. This area, I just built a fence around this corner of my yard. There's also a fence that runs that way and this way. And yeah, then I ran fence along the inside. I'm actually going to do a video on this, how I created this, and you'll get to see the overview perspective and so on and so forth. I'll go through each part of it. But I built it so that there was a decent sized bunny run where they could run and get exercise every day. And then I also have the caged area where they're in a very comfortable setting and they produce incredible amounts of bunny manure. And this is where it all started this year for me. And that was by going to a local farm, getting some excellent advice. I was actually going there to get chickens, and the idea was to get chickens for the fertilizer potential mainly, and then also the eggs secondarily. And I was steered towards bunnies, and I'm glad I was, because I believe it's a much easier fertilizer to deal with. It's a cold fertilizer, so you can apply it directly to your plants. I don't know that there's anything better. I guess you could have guinea pigs and stuff like that that also produce similar levels of quality fertilizer, but for me the bunny is the superior, because although it's a little overdue on collecting the manure that's in my system, it doesn't smell. I mean, there's almost no smell to it, and the bunnies themselves have no smell. I swear they are scentless, you know, and that's I think because they're prey. They're very quiet. They've got interesting, fun personality. So it's been a great thing. And I'm thinking of getting a third bunny, a chinchilla rabbit. That's the kind of rabbits that people typically call meat rabbits. But because they're so large, they get up to be about 12 pounds. Of course, I'd be getting it just for the fertilizer and pet potential completely. But the fertilizer output of this system, this simple system, has just amazed me, and it's transformed the entire yard. This whole yard gets the benefit of this manure. I put it around all the fruit trees specifically, and then I sprinkle it throughout the yard. You can see my yard is kind of bare in spots, right? This area that I'm growing in fact, in the recent video that I released, I showed an overview of like what the area actually looks like that I live in naturally when it's not houses, and it looks like a sand dune basically with it's sand. So if you just scratch under the surface here, it's beach sand. So that creates its own challenge. So you can see here, that doesn't look like beach sand because that's topsoil I've imported in and then spread around. I'm actually gonna do that. I do that to my whole yard on a periodic basis. I'm gonna be much more involved doing that. But that topsoil, it provides some retention of moisture, much more, which is much more comfortable place for the worms. If you don't have worms in your soil, it's, you know, you're not in a place that is gonna produce the most abundance. You really do have to have worms in the soil. And I realized about 1.5 years ago, my soil was a desert. Jack and I were out here digging around trying to find worms, and we realized, oh no. First of all, irrigation issues. I wasn't watering enough. Second of all, even where I was watering, there were no worms. And the reason was there's no food in those areas. But once you start spreading those bunny pellets around, and that's like, remember, know if you don't know already, that bunny pellets are cold manure. So you can just scatter them all throughout. And they're vegetarian, so it's really, I think, fairly clean type of manure, all things considered. And the worms will come to the surface and eat that bunny manure like it is the best thing ever. And now you could almost not put a shovel into a spot in my yard. There's almost nowhere where you wouldn't see some worms down in that sandy soil. So, and that's, again, 2 reasons, the bunny manure and the fertilizer. So this system is not only a soil health must-have for me in my situation here, but it is also an incredible pet. Sorry, I'm looking at my chat to make sure that's on. By the way, if you want to leave a comment, go ahead, comment in the chat window. Feel free, I always enjoy that. But it's also a pet system. So this is got multi-uses. I function stack in here. And you can see I've created with branches of trees that the rabbits like to chew on. I've created a little area where they can go and explore around, and all the animals love to get down into that structure. And that's just a series of 1 oak branch and a couple of longan tree branches. And I provide the natural foods they like to eat. There's lemongrass and sugarcane. Certainly the bunnies love that, and it creates a real natural place. They like to go back there and hang out. And then pigeon peas are something I planted. So they're always dropping leaves and fruit and so on that these bunnies are into. Let's go ahead and let the bunny out. Oh, and here's another thing. This has been a process, a system. And you can see that it's, you've seen previous videos, it's expanded. I initially built this with a small roof, and I had this is actually a beach raft that we cut in half, but permaculture principle of recycle. This is recycling, by the way, reusing recycling. I'm not sure what happens when you put it in those bins, but I know what happens when I do this, and it's getting a use. But that just keeps, it's been rainy the last day or so, so we put that down so little Penelope doesn't get wet while she's in a rainstorm. Yeah, but I expanded the roof out to this side all the way, and then all the way out to this side, which gives them, now this will greatly cool down the temperature in here. I've been watching the temperature very carefully. You can see what it is now. Beautiful 80 degrees, mid-December. Perfect weather for the rabbits, which is why they can live outdoors. And Penelope is getting rather large. Be careful we don't overfeed these rabbits. It's easy to do it because it's so fun to watch them eat. She knows exactly what's up. This is what she does every time that I come to the cage to take her out. She just sits there, waits to be picked up. She knows exactly what is going to happen next. All right, and I cannot do this one-handed, so I'm gonna put the camera down while I grab her. There she goes. The rabbit is free. Yeah, and don't worry, Thumps, you're next. This little thumper. See, he's got a nice pile of sticks in there. And I won't show the bunny manure, but it's overdue for harvesting. I did do a updated cage system because we also had the chickens in here and they would fly over the lower cage we had established for the bunnies. And we found that the bunnies really love having the chickens around. You can tell in their behavior, they're much more, maybe a little bit more lively. And, you know, I think it's interesting to watch a bunny hopping around a bunch of chickens. So this system was incredible. This led to my worm farm, which has been really wonderful. Produces worm tea. In other words, the water that runs off from running through all this worm casting, the worm poo, makes this beautiful worm tea. I just created 2 buckets of it not that long ago. You can see there's a lizard going back that way. I hope he doesn't go into the chicken pen, because if he does, he will be eaten by these little chickens almost immediately. They love lizards. But this is simply red wiggler composting worms, and in it you just feed them bunny manure. Is one great thing to feed the worms. Another thing to feed the worms would be any food scraps. And not like meat and stuff, but any vegetables, any fruit. So I've got some rotten bananas that I threw in there recently. That's what this is, and also some bunny manure. But yeah, as it rains, you know, we collect the output there, or sometimes I'll just grab rainwater. I like to get rainwater from collected water that got in a catchment or a rain catching device of some kind, and then I'll pour that in here, and that really, you know, produces the best worm tea. Okay, so that system was really simple and easy to put together, and it's basically just 2 bins with this nozzle. Very simple. And that led me to the chickens, the sweet little chickies, which are all doing very well. Hey, girls. Hey, Palm Nation. Yes. 'Tis the season to spend some quality time with the chickens. This year we'll make our deviled eggs. We usually make deviled eggs. We'll make our deviled eggs with these sweet little chicken eggs. They are now producing something like 5 to 6 eggs a day on the regular. Really high quality eggs. So for a little yard like mine, that is a lot. And you can see they've really been working on this soil. We actually put the chicken bedding from their coop back in piles here, and they just compost it and mix it in with the soil here, and it's great. But this area has almost no smell also. I mean, it has the smell of like a rich soil, like a farmy kind of a little bit smell, but it's not unpleasant. It's nice. I've been putting everything in my yard back into this system. So all the leaves, all the branches, everything. I'll show you my compost bins too, which was another great upgrade. But this chicken coop has just been a winner all day. I'm glad we didn't get to hurricane test it this year. It was nice when our gardens are not completely destroyed by natural disasters. The Moringa Patch here is actually doing pretty well. I topped several of them. I got one I planted from seed there recently, but you see I just topped this one off. And grown quite nicely. If you're not familiar with Moringa, it's a good ad for most yards, I would say. Definitely produces a lot of growth, and even if you're just using it for chop and drop, it's useful. I've done some architecture work on the trees here a bit, making sure that my sweet tamarind is standing straight up. I want it to get that vertical growth. This is actually in the understory of a mango tree that I love very much, because you can see it's getting plenty of light, and that's because I positioned it where it gets that southern exposure. This time of year the sun's tracking a little lower in the sky here, and it gets plenty of sunlight. Actually a little less sunlight in the summer when it's full, and when it's almost directly overhead where we are, it doesn't get as much sun in the summer. Kind of an interesting paradox. This is the Montingia tree, and very interesting to note that the Montingia, like many fruit trees, is less vigorous grower from a grafted cutting, or from a cutting let's say, in general. You can grow these quite well from cuttings, but it doesn't have a high success rate. In other words, you would probably plant maybe 10 cuttings of moringa and expect 1 or 2 to make it, but you can grow them, and then they'll grow really well from that and produce fruit just like the original tree, of course. And look at the health of this. Beautiful. It's up above the salt spray in my yard, which is coming out of the sprinklers all the time, and also coming over this shrub all the time from the ocean winds. But it's in the zone where it can thrive, and I'm stoked that it is. But you compare that to if you look on this end of the yard, I'll try to get it so it's out of the sun. This is one that I've grown from a seed, and you can see it is just much taller. This is just a little over a year old, and that Montingia tree, Jamaican cherry tree, is pretty tall. And you can see it's above the zone where it's protected, and it is getting shredded by those winds. It'll just be shredded and burned on the top there eventually when we get a big blow, but very vigorous. I'm not worried about that because I'll just trim it a little lower. I like that it has a beautiful pattern to the growth. It smells very good. It produces lots of Jamaican cherries, which are delicious. Got to give you an update on my mango expansion. I finally decided, I had a grapefruit tree that I planted here, and I finally decided that it was just not doing well. So I dug it up and I put it, it was on death's doorstep essentially. I dug it up and put it in a pot. It's slowly rebounding. And I planted this Kesser mango tree here instead, which is known to be the queen of mango trees. And you can see it has got a beautiful shoot there and one here that is emerging. This is the time of year when it's been so nice that the mango trees almost think it's spring. And as you can see, this mango tree, this is an Edward mango tree, which is a delicious variety that I've never accomplished fruit from, has flowers already. So we'll see how that goes, but they'll likely get burned to a crisp first cold weather. Like it might get down in the 30s for a couple hours one night, and that kind of thing just burns these mango trees for sure. They'll survive it, but it just burns the leaf. Now this is a patio mango tree called the Malacca that I purchased recently at Walmart, of all places. And I was stoked to find it because it was an interesting variety, and I know it's a patio mango, which is a little bit smaller variety, high fruiting, low pest problem situation. So stoked, and it already sprouted new growth. Now this one gets hit by the sprinkler that's there and one that's off to my right. So it doesn't like that, and I can tell it doesn't like it because the new growth has this burn on the end. That is symptomatic of growing things in a salty environment with mango trees. So I know that, and I know that also as long as it will grow through this adversity, it will achieve something like this. The Edward was burned its whole way up, and now it's above the salt zone and it is thriving. By the way, the worm tea and the bunny manure has a big contributing factor in its success this year, in addition to the salt. But once you get everything dialed in, but this is going to just be an incredible mango once it gets a little taller. And I put it here tied in because it is a small, compact fruit tree. You see my pineapples, my pineapple tower, which I converted from a carrot tower. It's still converting. There we feed the animals carrots. It's doing quite well as well. And that's how many pineapples I've eaten this year, pretty much, with a few exceptions. And now this, look at all this star fruit on the ground. I gotta pick those up and get them in the compost bin. It's time to, this is star fruit. I'll show you that in a moment. Star fruit season. Holy moly. This, look at that beautiful growth. This, my friends, is really, in my opinion, the gold standard of mango trees. One of many, and this will be open to debate, I'm sure. But this is the Fairchild Mango. It's a famous historical mango in Florida. It's known to produce really, really excellent quality fruit, be low pest resistance, etc. And I couldn't be more excited that it is vigorously sprouted. Look at all those leaves. This also has been the beneficiary of the bunny manure. See it down in there? And I'm going to give it a little bit more worm tea probably, and those worms will be drilling down there and leaving worm castings all around it, and it will just go off. So what's in bloom this time of year? Let's take a look. By the way, if you like this kind of video, like the kind of content, please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. Lets me know that you like it. And I hope you will subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, just use the links in the video description to go to Amazon anytime you go to Amazon to buy anything. And that's like a donation that doesn't cost you anything extra. So that's super simple. That's how I let people know how to support the channel. Okay, this is a lemon. Nice and ripe. No, it's not pretty, but it is delicious. And this is growing lemons in my area. This is what you're gonna get typically if you don't use lots of treatments. And I might end up adding a little bit more treatment to this and some other things this year, but this is a beautiful Meyer lemon. You can see there's many more that are on their way in. Palm Nation, do I have a guava? I do not have guava, and the reason is absolutely 100% because of the salt impact on it. I could fit it in somewhere here where it wouldn't get salt on it, but it's so incredibly salt intolerant that it's just gonna struggle perpetually. Like, it will never do great. I do know people that have strawberry guavas that do okay. They have a much more leathery leaf thing, but to me, a strawberry guava is not that great of a fruit. I don't even, but that being said, I would consider growing a strawberry guava. But yeah, these lemons are just fantastic. You get about 4 or 5 of them, you got enough for lemonade, that's for sure. And we like to make that every year. Look at the star fruit. You think we have enough star fruit? Never have I seen star fruit at this thickness of fruit. I've grown these for years, and it's just so many more than it's ever produced. Oh, the smell here. Hey, Survival David the Good. Good to see you, man. Welcome aboard. Yeah, my star fruit are absolutely, I wish you could smell this. To like get a good variety of star fruit is, to me, a wonderful achievement in life. There's so many varieties. Yeah, it's going crazy. I realize that my star fruit production has been really not that impressive over the years until I added the worm tea and the bunny manure. And now that I got that, yeah, it's on. Yeah, I need to jump on some of the David the Good streams. I always love those. I love especially is the live music, is the music. I just think that's super cool. I was actually going to ask you if you ever wanted to do a collaboration. Let me know. I do a lot of digital music stuff on my Jedi the Jingle Maker channel, which is just a fun little creative outlet for me, but I do a lot of work in the DAW. Yeah, well, maybe it's time to do one. It's actually been a little while since I've done a live stream too. I was actually a little bit sick lately, but like I said, rebounded, feeling fantastic, 100%. The more of this fruit I eat, the more I'll stay that way, I would say. Okay, so yeah, the star fruit going off, confused mango already blooming in December. And this was my commitment to banana kind this year. And I really just decided that many varieties of plants that I'm growing, the key is going to be to grow many of them. That goes for without a doubt, that goes for the pineapple. Without a doubt, that goes for the dragon fruit. So you'll see where I've planted these things. I don't just plant one, I plant many. So I need to stand these dragon fruit back up. But lots of cool types of dragon fruit. This is the yellow type, which grows pretty well in this area. But you can see I planted 1, 2, 3, 4. There's one behind there, 5, and then others around here. Here's more. Oh, it looks like that one. Squirrel got that one. See how that one's cracked? That's classic squirrel mode. But yeah, I plant many, and that's because you get many chances to produce fruit. One star fruit might produce, starfruit cactus might produce 5 or 6 fruits every couple years or so, maybe even longer spans. But if you have 15 star fruit plants, well, they all have that same chance. And the chance is they're going to start staggering fruit production, and that's where you get that non-stop fruit. Yeah, Palm Nation. Dude, send me an email. Absolutely. You know, I was thinking it would be fun to do some, do like the Zoom calls. I've done a bunch of those live streams on my other channels. Like I have a old surfer guys live stream called the Salted Towel Podcast that I do, and other things like that. And, you know, it was really tricky to get that figured out a little bit, but not the Zoom call. It's the mics and the sound being good and everything being set. But I do feel like I got a pretty good hang of it now. And I love to make the music. I just love, you'll hear in my my recent videos that I've released and more that come out, I'll be using more and more of my, you know, Jedi Jingle Maker tracks. Yeah, that's right. David the Good. Exactly. Plant a lot and give it away or feed a pig. That is exactly, it's so satisfying. That is exactly what I'm saying. Right. And eggs. Let's talk about eggs for a second. Classic scenario. You know, anybody that has chickens is going to come to this realization at some point, is you have so many eggs. What are you going to do with them all? If you're selling them, you know, that kind of thing, you have a pretty good answer to that. But if you're like me, you have 5 eggs, sometimes 6 eggs coming in every single day. That's 35 eggs. What, 7 times 5? Yeah, 35 eggs a week. I've got only 2 kids at home, and me and my wife, so it's hard to eat 35 eggs a week, and nor do we really want to eat that many eggs a week. So what do you do with them? Of course, you give them away, but you reach the point of where you can't give any more away. And now I've got a bunch of things. I actually have been feeding. Sometimes I'll crack some eggs and scramble them into the worm farm. I think the worms will eat the eggs, and they don't have any smell, like rotten smell, when you crack them openly like that. They just get eaten up. Sometimes I'll just put a shovel and crack a few around a tree, put those nutrients around the tree. Sometimes I'll scramble them and feed them back to the chickens. And I know how dark that might seem. But oh wow, David, you have 9 kids. I knew there's a reason I liked you. Extra eggs make for good neighbors. Yeah, that's so true. I really got to bust out of my shell a little bit. I'm naturally introverted a little too much, perhaps, and I need to get to know my neighbors better, but all the neighbors in my general proximity are the beneficiary of bags of mangoes and star fruit and papaya. And now I need to start that egg network. Get that egg network. Hook up that sweet, back alley egg deal. I got the good eggs, man. I got the high grade eggs. Those hens are like the most spoiled hens on earth. We feed them probiotics in their water and enzymes and stuff. We feed them grit, oyster shell. We got so few, we can just dote on them, basically. But we all enjoy interacting with them, is the thing. They're like pets to us as much as anything else. And they're so fun to be around in a pet-like setting. Anyway, yeah, so bananas. Back to what I was saying about the bananas. So we plant everything now I'm planting everything in large groupings. Yeah, exactly. And I just decided I totally want to commit to dwarf bananas in my southern end of my yard. And the reason is I don't want something that's going to shade out the rest. So I'm always very careful of structure, considering the structure, the effect on light. Introvert egg delivery. Yes, sir. And you know what? Here's another valuable thing with the eggs. Just simply throwing an egg and watching it just splatter. That act, to me, that's a profound philosophical motion that most people would probably enjoy doing. And I think it has a lot to teach us. But I'm going to say, every once in a while, I'm saying throw it at something that doesn't make sense. I'm saying, like, you could throw it at the base of a tree. You could throw it on the ground, just smash it onto the ground. And that thing will disintegrate, and all those nutrients will go right down and feed those worms, so... And it's fun to do, although, I don't know, probably make some people sensitive. But we're feeding scrambled eggs back to the chickens, which is something people do on farms all the time. It's good for them, and in fact improves their molting. I read, my research revealed. and it helps their egg production. You think about it, egg, to me, it seems like is made for a chicken to eat, isn't it? If it's not fertilized, it would be something that an embryonic chicken would eat. Anyway, that's my math. I'm sticking to it. Look at my little moringa. Don't linger with the moringa. Also, don't eat too many leaves or you're gonna, it's spicy. I'm not gonna say the moringa is a pleasant flavor. I'm not gonna go that far. But I am gonna say I love it, and it produces a ton of vegetative matter, which all the animals love. They don't mind the horseradish essence of it. I just actually, this is two that I grew very close together. And commercial moringa growers, they grow them only a foot apart typically, but you could grow many together. And the seeds just germinate so easily. To me, I recommend it to anybody who is interested in getting a quick food thing going. You juice the leaves. Well, now I'm curious. Yeah, that had to be a powerful flavor. I ate a few leaves this morning and I was like clearing my throat. Almost died, yeah. That's it. Not the preferred mixer for most things, although I guess it's, from my research, that I've determined that it's something like the consistency of broccoli in terms of its its nutrient power, which is kind of cool, but that's a kind of a steep price to pay for broccoli. My sugarcane is doing quite well, by the way. David, I watched your video on planting sugarcane and greatly enjoyed it. I love the idea of, I wish I, in many senses, had that kind of property where I could just lay down a row and just plant a large planting of things. I have to be so concerned in this small space how I plant everything, and of course don't want to be neurotic, although that is my tendency. But it's about very much fitting all these things together so nothing dies and I can have maximum output. Oh wow, growing a Washingtonia robusta. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll tell you, growing palm trees in northern areas, I really have a lot of respect for. I think that's super cool. I was watching, I don't know if you're familiar with Garden of Twitty, but that's a great channel. It just got started. But he actually was wrapping his banana trees in bubble wrap. I thought that was kind of cool. Bubble wrap. Oh no, here's what happens. Okay, here's what happens. That's right, feed a pig. To the point. Here we have it. These are, oops, there goes a banana, just fed a worm. These are forgotten Cavendish bananas. I just didn't get to them in time. Is really all that happened, but they are perfectly ripe. Now I could eat these. And the reason I noticed is that the banana tree itself is dying. This is gonna make great compost. But one thing I learned was bananas are probably one of the chicken's top treats to get. Look at these compost bins. Got two of them, probably gonna expand to a third, but finally bought a pitchfork. By the way, if you have not watched the David the Goods hoe video, you need to check that out. Just gonna tell you that right now. It made me want an antique hoe. I wanted a better hoe after watching that video. But I settled for a pitchfork and stoked. I need that pitchfork to turn these bins over. What I'm gonna do is, this is just wire, just disconnect the hoop and move it over, and then I'm just gonna shovel in kind of what they call it, first out, first in. You take the top, what's on top, and then pitchfork it back into the new location of the compost bin and let it cook for a little longer. I'm very curious to see. Those have been going there for about a year. Yeah, I don't know of anything better than a banana for a crop that produces a lot of food easily in Florida. I mean, I could turn this whole yard into a banana grove and produce an incredible quantity. I mean, I was basically doing that before I got these chickens. The corner area here was just a massive Musa banana grove. And those things get about 30 feet tall, so it's no joke. Now look at that perfect little banana. Look at that. It lived its whole life for this one moment. Oh, could see the dopamine flowing through their little bodies. The desire is so high. Serotonin. Eat it. Watching too many Anthony Huberman videos. The brain chemistry of chickens. Surprisingly, very similar to ours. Yeah, this one's going back in there. All right. Now that's a vote of supreme chicken love. We're gonna do one more. Yeah, it's interesting. The peels on these little bananas are so dainty. I was at the point where I was getting, hey, my northern garden, thanks for jumping on. Appreciate it. Yeah, so we were at the point with the musa and this grove that we had back here before I moved it. Yeah, give it to some of the less dominant chickens. Yeah, something just downright correct about feeding chickens bananas. Pretty cool. Hey, did I show you? I don't know if I showed you the inside of my chicken coop. This is my half-baked attempt at carpentry. Look at that. Simple, yet effective. And I learned an important lesson, which every carpenter knows, but somehow it evaded me until after I realized it by doing it the wrong way, that, yeah, always make a roof pitched. This idea of, just build a flat one because it's small. Nope, it's going to be a disaster. I did that with my rabbit run. Did not work out, but I fixed it. But I did not make the same mistake with this chicken coop. I went with the, thanks, appreciate that. Yeah, I love the setup. Okay, so we're gonna back up and I'll show you, kind of going back to the first part of the video. But all right, so this is where it started a year ago for me to this massive improvement initiative I've been executing in my backyard. So first, the bunny run, Zen bunny run, they're pets, they're fertilizer. It's just cool. And it's also a place to grow stuff. This is then the next step, which was to build that coop. And so I've got this fence going all the way. Now it cuts back here, and we also take the chickens and put them in the Zen bunny run, but those chickens then have the whole back corner of our yard all the way out to about here. So it's like a big L. And the amount of food that this little thing produces and fertilizer is mind-blowing. Hey, James Backyard. Interesting. Non-clumping calorie. Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you, one thing is, though, for sure, when I'm thinking about manure, I'm thinking about the smell of manure. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I grew up on a decent-sized, I'd say small farm. And, love the smell of horse manure, cow manure. I find that very pleasant, actually. But if you're in a suburban setup, the smell situation can be bad, and the bunny smell has zero, pretty much, and the chicken smell is almost zero, really low. And one of the ways I've been able to achieve that is using some of the things I learned from, what's that channel? The guy up in upstate New York, but anyway, he's excellent. He has all these chickens, and he does this incredible high tunnel composting system. And yeah, anyway, it was the effectiveness of putting wood in. So we put wood into this. I put wood into this all the time, both the stuff that I chop up in the yard, but also bags. I'll bring in bags of mulch and put that down there, and I think that really helps. It started to get some flies and stuff before I did that, and now we see almost no flies, and really productive. Another thing, by the way, I've got a video I'm going to be releasing here this week. It's already loaded up, which is how I solved, well, let me backstep, how I am hoping to solve this mealybug and whitefly infestation that started on this Malay dwarf coconut tree. Another huge producer of food once it gets going is the dwarf coconut trees. Dwarf Malay coconut trees are certainly two that I've used the green and yellow varieties I've used in the yard to produce tons of coconuts. Edible Acres, thank you, Sarah Martin. Yes, big shout out to Edible Acres. I am a huge fan of that. I think it's, in terms of chickens, it was the main educational resource I used prior to getting them, and it really paid off. And I'm trying to replicate a lot of those techniques here. Of course, I'm not at the level he's at yet, but I think it's an evolution though too. Oh yeah, so many types of palm tree fruit are edible. Palm Nation, it's really blown me away. And things that like the Areca palm I had been throwing away for years. Oh yeah, James' backyard, absolutely. That's right. The worms, you will have the worms and the simple, bunny farm are a symbiotic relationship. It's a circle, right out of the bunny into the worm farm, and right out of the worm farm into your trees, and then in plants, and then from your plants back in. So yeah, the circle of life. So this tree is one of 4 that I planted last year, purchased last year down in Sebastian, Florida. And yeah, rabbit manure is the bomb diggity times 1,000. And just talking about it makes me want to sprinkle a little around here. In fact, I think I will. I've got more than enough of it ready to go. So mealybugs and whitefly infestation. So the mealybugs, you can see that they're taking on, when you can see a little remnant of them here, but it looks like almost like rice or some kind of schmutz was pressed all over it. And ants will work with the mealybugs to do whatever ants do with mealybugs. And anyway, I've never treated them before, and I realized this year, time to get a little more serious about treating some of the ailments as they come on. I actually had mealybugs on some of the pigeon peas that I was growing, and they went away naturally, which I was quite pleased with. So now I've experimented with neem oil. I got some neem oil spray. Touts itself to be effective at this, and I just made a video of every step of it. Actually included a couple of my original songs to see how goofy they were. But I first removed all of the actual bugs with paper towel, threw that away, and then sprayed it down heavily. And I don't know, it's only been a day, so who knows. But I'm going to spray it again a couple more times, and I'm going to keep an eye out, and I think I might use it on one palm tree that just has maybe the beginning of a little bit of that going on, just as a preventative. But I'll let you know how it works for me. I think a lot of people use it, so it's no mystery that neem oil can be effective. But I want to know, like, specifically on a green Malay coconut tree that had the mealy bug and also had the whitefly. There's a thing called spiraling whitefly, which is actually pretty common infestation. I've had it get on other palm trees and had it kill them, and I didn't treat it early enough. But once it becomes an all-out infestation, ooh, is that a black widow spider nest? I don't like that. Well, anyway, it's probably dead from the oil I sprayed up there. But the whitefly will actually, here's some, I believe. You see that? It's like that could be mealybug. It's hard to tell, but anyway, they're both treatable by that neem oil, apparently. So you remove that, you do many treatments of it, and apparently it'll help. So I sprayed the whole tree down. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, and by the way, I had threatened my grapefruit tree many times with removal because it was just suffering so much over here. And there are a lot of reasons. I mean, first of all, the root bug, the mealybugs. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear you had the good luck with the neem oil, because I'm very curious how it's going to pan out here. It's a pretty common infestation here, believe it or not. Beachside, yeah, well, anyway, so finally just put an end to the grapefruit tree. It was never going to do well there, and planted this mango tree. But I have a sick bay back here that I've removed these two, and I'll show you the difference and just what I mean by the salt having such an effect. My yard has the saltiness, it has the dry sand, it has some harsh conditions like that I got to deal with. Your environment will have something slightly different, likely, or similar, but the point is, whatever the factors are that you're mitigating, you just observe it, figure it out over time, and adjust as needed. Here are a bunch of things that I'm getting ready to plant around: Persian mulberry tree, some moringa, Suriname cherry, everbearing mulberry, tamarind. So getting ready. This whole area we're gonna revamp, and I think I'll probably do another series. I'm gonna plant everything I need for spring. Oh, look at this. This is a good example of another cool permaculture principle I love: the utilizing edge spaces. These are all things I just grew from cuttings. And by the way, now I just let the grass and stuff grow in, because that is prime chicken food, prime bunny food. I've changed the way I look at. Oh, look at that. Those are little Chinese fan palms that I planted from seeds. They're growing. Oh, check out this dragon fruit. Look at, you see how it'll, that's Florida ivy. Grew up the side of that fence. But this is where I've staged, well, some of the mulch that we put around. But this is one of the 2 soursop trees that I had purchased that had the salt effect. You see the classic salt burn effect. So telltale. And it was really on death's doorstep, and even to the point where the tree itself didn't have enough roots to keep it stable. I mean, it seemed loose on the bottom, like it was going to break over at the base. Really a disaster. So I finally dug it up before it died and placed it over here, and I've been watering it and nursing it back to health. I'll feed it some bunny turds, give it some worm tea. It'll improve. But look at how it's sprouted and just doing wonderfully with no burn on the leaves. And that's because this area doesn't get spray onto the leaves. So, you know, that's one way I know that, well, this is working. Now, I think, anybody know what this one is? It's one of the world's easiest things. Some people don't like these, but you know, I claim they're pretty cool for chop and drop. Although if you chop and drop them, they might not die when you drop them. They might sprout again in the pile you place them in. But yeah, this is a Mexican sunflower, they call it. And it will just produce a ton of this. Leaves, vegetable matter to chop and drop. And you can see this little Japanese yew tree, but I use, in these pots, I'll use whatever I have that's small enough to fit in there to retain some of the moisture, just because it gets so dry. I mean, it just gets incredibly dry. This whole area will now become my spring vegetable gardening area, and that's because we have this wall here which faces directly south. This time of year, this will be the warmest area in the yard, and this is the only time of the year I can grow anything here, because it is other than stuff that's super hardy like cactuses and so on, because it just becomes a scorcher in the summer. It's absolutely too hot. But I'm going to turn this into my spring vegetable garden, so stay tuned. Going to definitely get into some cool stuff this year. This is the Persian mulberry tree. Look at the size of the Persian mulberry tree. Excellent, excellent fruit, and a good producer. That's an edge space. See, it's right up along the edge of my neighbor's yard. So, oh, by the way, here's a necessary fixture in the front yard. You gotta have your wetsuit, your boat rope. All right. Now, this, by the way, this oak tree, live oak. What an incredible, incredible resource. It's the bane of my existence, quite frankly, and I also love it. But, you know, it's gotten so huge, so huge. It just expands out so far to the west because the ocean breezes have blown it this way. But I need to remove about this much of it, which is an incredible weight of oak to deal with. And I don't want it to crush the little palm trees beneath it, but I've been slowly but surely dealing with it. And what I do is I'll just commit to one branch worth, and that's about all I can process at once, but one branch worth of trimming. I use this technique. There's a lot of people who like to leave a little bit more on there, but I like to kind of nub it, and I found that works beautifully. You can see I've done that here. All these cuts were made by me. They all healed up beautifully, and I believe cutting it close but leaving the sleeve around that cut always gives you a good result. On this tree, for me at least. Here's another one I did. See how nicely they heal up. Here's another one. Anyway, yeah, so I've got to slowly, progressively harvest this thing. All right, let's look on the side of the house. I actually committed to growing here. And this was interesting that David the Good's on. I was largely inspired by that video you did. But I decided to make a little sugarcane patch here. So this is red and green sugarcane. The green takes a lot longer to sprout for whatever reason. But yeah, look at this. Look at the classic stick edging and everything. Mango tree stick edging. And, you know, I would have looked at this 2 years ago as a weedy place, but now I know this is about the best thing you could ever give your chickens in terms of weeds that grow around. They love it. This is, we call it chicken weed. They love to eat that. And if they're in an area where this is growing, it will all be gone rather quickly. I just picked a little to feed them. I know how much they'll enjoy it. We'll take it back around, feed it to them. But yeah, this is the red, and the red sugarcane that I have, it just sprouted right away. All of it sprouted right away. I mean, it's sending up shoots within 3 days. It's amazing. And then I planted this Florida green variety that I love, and it's taken a lot longer to come up, but the initial shoot is much more sturdy. You see here, this is probably 3 weeks after planting, maybe longer. Just starting to come up now, and they'll come up everywhere. Yeah, this is great. Hey, Dave, do you know what this is called? I don't actually know what it's called. Yeah, I mean, all of these weeds here, I'm just not sweating the grass growing anymore, because all of these weeds here are excellent, excellent treats for the chickens. And we had a decent sized, it's kind of a pathetic looking moringa tree at this point, but it'll spring up. We had a decent sized moringa tree here, got cracked over by some wind, and I just cut it off and grew a couple sprouts. Oh, okay, thanks. Well, now I know. Here's another little cutting I just planted. What I do is right before it's gonna rain, I take cuttings and just jam them straight in the ground. That's all I did here. No root hormone, nothing. The mulberry is just one of the easiest things to grow. And it's already got fruit. I mean, if you want a satisfying fruit tree for your first fruit tree, I'd say get a mulberry, just because you're going to get the result so quickly. You know, at one point I had many varieties of bamboo. I went through kind of almost a bamboo phase where I was just growing as many types as I could, and I got up to 12 varieties of bamboo. I like these walk around videos too, because you get a sense for how big the yard is. It's not that big. I was actually thinking of making a series where I kind of show exactly how the whole yard is organized. You have a song about the mulberry bush? Yeah. Alrighty. That sounds like a good idea. Maybe I should make a song about a mulberry bush and base it on the classic English mulberry bush song. Oh yes. You can see it in their eyes. Yeah, I bet you, I know, I bet you I could fit it 100 times into your yard. Ooh, that's it. All right. There you go. Hey, all right, Teresa Gray, thanks for jumping on the stream. I appreciate you. Yeah, I've really got densely planted things. I just planted these, which I was excited to plant. This is a classic, like you'll see it on every old Hawaiian longboard, typically. And that is Monstera Deliciosa, which I've got a few videos about this on the channel, but it's one of my favorite edibles. It's actually in a category I call poisonous edibles. And the fruit that this produces is absolutely delicious. It tastes something like a pineapple and a banana combined, in my opinion. But it has types of acids in it when it is young that are poisonous, so you got to be careful. Probably don't want to be eating it if you have like internal organ issues, but I'd say it's delicious as a great novelty every once in a while. Just got to make sure it's fully ripe. And when it is, it's delicious. And I've actually used this to plant a whole bunch of things. How fast does a sea grape grow? Asks Palm Nation. It grows very fast, and I'm going to say a few things about sea grapes. One is that they are super fast growers, but they love very loose sandy soil. So here's one that I planted from a seed. I'm also going to say that they do not germinate very readily from the seed, so you'll want a lot of seeds to get at least one to sprout if you do it that way. They sell them very commonly, like Lowe's here, you could get one for probably 12 bucks. But the point is, if planted in loose sandy soil and watered enough, they turn into something like this. This one I've been tree forming. They're actually great for tree forming, but they're very brittle wood. I love the bark on these guys. Very, gets this kind of interesting look to it, which I really like. Yeah, you definitely grow it as a perennial. Yeah, sea grape is a tree. It's a tree that lasts for years. This tree has been in my yard for probably 10 years. Maybe it's a 10-year-old tree, something like that. And I trim it heavily. This, by the way, produces a very, very rigid leaf, which is one of the cool things about it, actually. Let's see if I can pop one off. Here's one, a little one. They use these as ceremonial plates in India, actually. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's very rigid now. You can probably see that. But placing this into the chicken pen, they'll just turn it into dust. I mean, that's the thing. Anything that hits the ground, you just put it in there and it gets mulchified. And I also use it. I've got it in the front yard as a big trellis. I grow it very open, and I've got dragon fruit growing up it as a trellis. And here I use it to overhang this growing table, which needs a lot of attention here. It's in a transition state, which is why it looks like such a mess. But I'm gonna have all of this stacked up with pots and sprouts growing here shortly. Be making a bunch of videos on that, so I hope I see you on those. But this is important because this is a southern exposure, and the sun in the summertime is just overwhelming, and everything here will die or evaporate the water in a day. So this has allowed me to provide the shade. Yeah, those chickens are composting machines. They're on a duty. They have a duty to turn everything into compost. Just scratch and scratch and scratch until everything is compost. All right, let's go back and see how that Penelope's doing. Why not? As a matter of fact, I think I'm gonna grab a carrot. I'd like to get one out of here. Now, you know what? This is another great. It's carrots. Carrots, so easy to grow. I'm going to grow a bunch of carrots this year, by the way. I learned last year that they are the easiest thing to grow in my yard. I couldn't believe it, how easy it was to grow. And just by sprinkling seeds on top of the soil. Everything loves to eat carrots. The rabbits, the bunnies, they are all carrot munching machines. They will turn this carrot leaf. They like the leaves better than the fruit. Better than the root, I should say. Hey, Pinellas. What are you doing? Want some? Want some? She doesn't seem that interested. She gave me the bunny butt. You see that? She's gonna go in and chew on the lemongrass. Interesting. Hey, Thumper saying, when's it my turn? I'm saying you're gonna go to the back of the cage. They always go to the back of the cage. Except, no, not this time. What beautiful bunnies. The whole family is out here all the time. Oh, sorry, didn't like that. The whole family is out here all the time interacting with these bunnies. So they are very socialized creatures. I'm gonna show you a little trick. Thumper will let me. First I gotta lay him down in front of the cage. Okay, now if you get your rabbit to a certain level of relaxation and contentment, because they're nervous creatures, right? So, hey Thumps, you nervous? You don't look that nervous. They're not nervous if you don't pick them up, you know, like a rabbit is a little weirded out when they're picked up, although these bunnies will let us pick them up and hold them for long periods of time. It took a while to get them there. They're little bunnies, which means they're more timid by nature anyhow. So to keep them at the point where they're just super relaxed, you know, and exercise helps that a lot, so they're not neurotic, but let's see. I don't think he's gonna let me, but he might let me do it from here. No, he won't. I can get him to lay on his side. If you get him to lay on his side and then pet him, he'll just fall asleep on his side like a dog. But he's not in the mood. No, I'm not gonna try to force him. Hey, Penelope. What you doing? Yeah, and this bench has been a good addition. Yep, so everything's growing pretty well. I would say the next anticipated harvest is going to be this chocolate pudding tree fruit, which I just picked a large pudding tree fruit off of it and actually kind of picked himself. All right, have a great weekend there, David. Appreciate you jumping on. By the way, send me an email if you want to do a collab on a song or something. That's fun. All right, so look at these two beautiful, beautiful chocolate pudding tree fruit. This is actually a type of persimmon. And the trick to these, well, first of all, this is the thing you want, the kind of thing I think you want in your yard, just to be able to have something that's interesting. Yeah, pudding. Hey, Green Country. Good to see you. Agroforestry. Awesome. But yeah, it's producing. It's producing at levels it's never produced at before, just like everything else in the yard, because of the two things I always mentioned. But you go, oh, look, there's a squirrel up there. Squirrels have become rather bold in my yard. They only exert a small price, though. They're not that bad. But these taste like they do have a chocolatey kind of pudding thing going on when they're ripe, almost like with an avocado taste blended in. And they're gigantic, so that's kind of cool. But the trick really is to let them ripen all the way on the tree itself. It's interesting. You can see all the spider webs up here. Those are from what we call banana spiders, which are these cool spiders that live in Florida that get really a little bit decent size, and they're kind of weird looking, but I generally tend to let them just do their thing because I like them. Oh, there's one. Yeah, probably hard to see. He's a little guy. But yeah, the banana spiders. I've really tried to focus on keeping this backyard in a state where it's bug friendly, critter friendly. You know, I do draw the line. We've actually got a small native rabbit that started to come into the chicken run. It chewed a hole through here, and it's so that we're not going to tolerate for long, because he'll just come and eat up all of the grass, and also the carrots that I'm growing on my rabbits. So gonna have to control that. I think I can mostly keep that rabbit out of this yard simply by having good fencing at the perimeter, because I know exactly where he gets in and so on. But yeah, but we also have turtles that come into the yard. We see snakes from time to time, always non-poisonous from what I've seen, the red corn snakes and garden snakes of various varieties, but it's always been non-poisonous, thankfully. Oops, looks like I left the door open to the bunny pen. No, this will answer the question instinctively. What is, let's see if I can get her before she, yeah. Okay, let's see if I can get her to go back in her bunny run, because if not, I'm going to be dealing with a bunny catching experience, which is not what you want. Usually I can just motivate her to go back. Oh no. Yeah, I'm not going to try to catch her. So, question of which is easier to catch, chicken or a bunny? Without a doubt, it's a chicken. We let Penelope out here. She usually would just hop back in her cage, and I bet you that's what she'll do, hop back in her bunny run, but let her out to explore. Yeah, another issue with having the bunnies, wild bunnies in the yard, is that these chickens are not, I mean, this bunny is not protected from the bunny diseases that the natural bunnies can get and carry. Actually, there's a pretty dangerous one that infects bunnies, but, you know, we all take that risk. Right, Penelope? Penelope wants to live free. Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah, and you just jumped on the stream? Go ahead, give me a thumbs up if you like this kind of video. I wanted to show you one more thing. This is another mulberry tree I planted. I just jammed this in the ground. This is one of the very first Eat Your Backyard videos, was a mulberry video where I just said, all you have to do is jam them in the ground, and it's still true. All you have to do is jam them in the ground. I took this cutting from this tree, which is grown as more of a barrier to the strong salt spray coming in all the time. And again, just one of the most satisfying things. Now, going a little nuts here, planted right next to a Celeste fig that's dormant right now. And then planted this right next to it. That's something in the food forest, you know, way of doing things, which is to crowd a little bit, but not too much, and know your trees. And this one can definitely handle it. But uh-oh, we got a cluck fest going on over in the chicken coop. I might have to go deal with that. But yeah, fruit. Excuse me, fruit. Ew. Fruit on the cutting. Look at all those berries. That has something to do with the bunny manure, for sure. Uh-oh, cackle fest. In fact, hey, we might as well all enjoy the cackle fest. This is as noisy as the chickens get. Oh, look at you. Really? You're announcing? Are you announcing your egg contribution? They are under your feet. That's why I'm taking so long to get around here. They are under those feet. Okay, look at this. This thing's, I didn't realize it's actually getting a little dirty. Is this what you were telling me about? Ah, yeah, you see, I had a buddy over here yesterday. I was giving him eggs. I hear you. I hear you. Yes, yes, yes. And we were taking some eggs from here, and there were about 12 eggs in there. They laid 6 eggs 2 days in a row. And I had the golf balls over here, and he said they always lay them in one nesting box. And yes, they do. Yeah, demonics. Every once in a while you get a honk from the barred rock hens. Are you trying to bite my shorts? But I told him, well, look, if I move these golf balls over to this one, next they'll lay the eggs there. And I'll be darned if they didn't lay the eggs there. Look at that. And by the way, everyone, see how this one has a little bit of like, it's not dirty, it's just got a little bit of like a whatever, mud, poo, whatever that is on it. Occasionally your eggs will get that on it from the hens, but I try to keep it pretty clean in their pen so that doesn't happen, but they're around in this mud all the time. It will happen. And you might remember that there is only one hole from which eggs come out of, and everything comes out of a chicken, and it's the same hole. So don't sweat it. It's not going to make you sick because these eggs are also coated with a natural coating from the chicken that prevents bacteria from getting inside, which is why you don't wash the eggs after you take them. You could wash them, but if you do wash them, you remove that coating, and then you have to refrigerate them because the bacteria can get in. So the best thing is don't wash them and refrigerate them, and they will last for like 4 or 5 weeks, you know, and be super fresh. So now, yeah, what are the difference? They look almost like they're two different types of, oh, just a squirrel startled me. Two different types of eggs, and they're two different types of eggs from two different birds. You can see they're about the same size, but this one is from, don't you peck that. This one is from the golden sex-link chickens, which is this type. They're called that because they are golden when they're little chicks, and you can tell that they're females because of their color. And they're a relative of the Rhode Island red bird. They're actually very affectionate, very cool birds. I've really enjoyed them. They like to be held. As the other birds, not as much. But these are totally different in their demeanor from the bark rock birds, which are called Plymouth rock birds by some. They're an old heritage breed, very hardy. They had a tougher time coming up to the excellent egg production standard, but they produce these lighter eggs. And this is, I wouldn't say it's yellow. I saw the question there. I would say that it is more of like a khaki, and this is more of a straight golden brown. It's just beautiful. But both of them, you know, the thing is, the barred rock has actually produced a couple of eggs that had double yolks, and they actually had some eggs that were soft. I was a little worried that they had nutrient deficiency. You know, you end up throwing those away, but they can produce a larger egg than the golden sex links. But the golden sex links would just, oh wow, she flew up in there. The golden sex links will produce highly consistent, reliable egg like this, one a day, every day. I haven't had one day they haven't laid an egg since they started laying. They're just incredible. And these eggs are delicious. I mean, they're so good. Maybe I'll go eat these. All right, hey, look. Go on in there. Maybe she needs to lay. Just pushed her in there. Yeah, I'll get these out later. Just leave them in there. See if the hens are getting interested, because they see me getting interested. Yeah. And you can see that the composting power of the chickens is hard to mistake here. These are oh, you want chickens, my northern garden? Yeah, dude, you need to get them. It's a great investment. And you don't have to get this many. You know, I ended up getting 6 because everybody said get 6 because 2 will likely die, and at least, or you'll get 2 that are not hens, they're roosters, and you'll want, or you know, things happen. Oh, look at that, chicken manure. But yeah, they manure it and then they compost it. But I think 4 chickens would be a perfect number, actually, for a small application. I mean, again, you just do the math. 4 times 7, it's a lot of eggs a week. But they are scratching and sitting on top of and always interacting with these logs of the sable palm. Actually, it was a queen palm that I'd stumped. So even the stumps and wood of these trees now, I just place it on the ground. The worms and bugs are coming up from the bottom, the funguses are coming from the sides and tops, and the chickens are all over it, everywhere. And in fact, it creates a little habitat for bugs to hide away. Maybe one of the few places bugs could have a possible chance to evade these sweet little hens. They are ferocious velociraptor-like predators of all bugs. You do not see any bugs skimmering around here, and that's because they ate them all. Yeah, green country agroforestry. Yeah, get that chicken pen revamped. That's right. Yeah, heavy duty predator protection. I mean, you just can't overdo it, right? Because you never know what the predators are going to think of. And we have raccoons here, so I've buried fencing down and out, and then I have cement all around the outside pavers that make it very challenging for anything to get through. We haven't had any challenges that I've seen, really, but you know, it could happen. It definitely could happen, and raccoons could get back here and make this their mission. I think maybe they probably already tried and failed, but we'll see. I always keep an eye on it. You just sleep easier if you know your hens are well protected at night, and these really are. Oh, you have older and young chickens all together. That's so cool. Yeah, if I had the property like you had, I think, yeah, I would be going hog wild with the chickens. And also be having, I would also have a rooster. But of course, can't really do that here, too many people. Price you pay. But anyway, I use this mesh, you know, for my chicken coop. Since you mentioned the predator thing, the chicken wire sucks. I mean, you know, that stuff just, it's so flimsy. And any decent predator is just gonna make short work of that. But this stuff, you know, even a raccoon can't really get its little claws through here to pull a chicken out. Because if they get a hook in a chicken, they'll actually, through chicken wire, pull the chicken through the wire. Kill it and pull it through the wire. So David the Good said it, you know, nature wants to kill your chickens. It's just so true. But I can't think of a better food option than chickens, just because it's quite literally, obviously, the perfect, ooh, listen to that, the perfect food. It's got everything you could possibly want. Now, oops, dropped a pigeon pea seed. Now, these pigeon peas, oops, are something these birds absolutely love. And I'm gonna give chicken a treat. It's not a bad way to do it. And the ones they miss could sprout, and then they'll eat the sprouts. And that's the thing about these golden sexlings. They're small, but they're not afraid to give their other hens a peck. Whereas these barred rocks are bigger, but they're much more gentle. Yes, you're gentle. They actually get kind of bullied by the smaller birds. It's strange. You know, that's their cross to bear. I should probably top this. And as a matter of fact, maybe I'll do that in an upcoming video. This is a papaya, Hawaiian papaya. Grew this from a seed from the grocery store. That easy. Just takes a little while for them to sprout, but once they sprout, you'll have high germination of seeds if you just plant them. But this is a male, and the reason you know it's a male is because of this flower. And it is multiple flowers. That's a male. The males will give seeds to the females, so you know, depending on how many seeds you want, keep the males or not. I think it's kind of fun to have them. Not everyone needs to produce fruit. Being a male, it's nice to think there's room in the world for males. But every part of that papaya is edible. It's a vegetable. And the hens love it. They'll eat the leaves, they'll eat all of it. And it's really good for them. Now, if you've ever tasted papaya leaves, it is nasty. It tastes like a, yeah. But they love it. Now, these pigeon peas could not be easier to grow from a seed. I think I'll just plant a few in here just to illustrate the point. Okay, so they're already dry on the plant this time of year. So, see them in there? And they will grow, every one of them. All I do is just push them down. Now, as these grow, if they grow in this little bit of soil I have here, put the rest here, I'll probably transplant them. But I typically do that. I'll just walk around, plant things, come back to them later. I gotta put this worm tea out. It's getting old. Don't want to let it get too old. Lose its natural goodness. All right, well, I think we're gonna end the live stream. Been on for a little over an hour, and I really appreciate everybody who jumped on. It was super fun. I'm thinking of doing evening live streams, try to get the community together more often. Let me know if that's something that appeals to you. I've got a good setup now for doing that with the camera, and the audio is good and everything works now, so can easily do that. Also, if you're interested in collaborating, just shoot me a email at the email listed on the About tab of Eat Your Backyard. If you have anything going on in your yard you think people would find interesting, I would encourage you to post it. Share the love. So thanks for watching. Eat Your Backyard. Have a great day. Get out there, say something kind to someone you love.